Hey y'all, it's your friend Dee, and in today's video, I'm going to continue working on the post office. In my last video, I made the furniture. In this video, I'm going to work on the interior and some small accessories. I'm going to start off with the accessories, and the first one is going to be a scale. If you watched last week's video, you saw how I made my countertops. I'm making the scale the exact same way. To make the scale, I'm using a piece of foam board and paper board. Both pieces are cut to 2.5 inches by 1.5 inch, and I'm going to glue those together. I'm also using a strip of paper board that is 1/4 inch in width, and on the length, as long as you have enough to go around the outside edges of your scale, that's fine. So even if you can't find a long strip, just piece some together and cover the edges. I have all of my pieces glued together, and I'm making a scale similar to what I've seen at my local post office. It's just very simple. It just looks like a silver pan. And if I can find a picture of one, I'll put it on the screen. But now I'm going to paint this silver. Here's my finished scale. It's pretty simple. Next, I'm going to make the computer/register for the customer desk. And I have some paperboard that is cut to 3 inches by 2 inches. And this was left over from another project, so I think it's 2 layers glued together. Depending on what paperboard you use, you may not have to glue any together. Yours might be thick enough on its own. For the supports for the computer screen, I'm also using leftover paperboard. These pieces were a little bit thicker. I cut one of the pieces to 1.5 by 1/2 inch. The other piece was 1 3/4 inches long, so that's the longer side here. And I just cut at an angle on this side. So this side, the bottom is 1 inch, and that left this side at 1/2 inch. And these two pieces are going to glue together like this, and the screen will sit like this. I wanted the screen to tilt just a little bit. And for the keyboard, I have some paperboard that is cut to 2 3/4 by 3/4 inch. And once again, this was left over from another project, so I think it might be 2 pieces glued together. I have the computer screen assembled. So I have the 3 pieces glued together. Here's what it looks like from the back. And it can stand up on its own. And I'm leaving the keyboard separate. So I'm going to paint both of these black before I glue on my printable for my screen and the printable for the keyboard. Here's the finished computer/register. I'm not going to have a cash drawer. I'm just going to pretend that I have one underneath the desk area. And for the shorter computer monitor, I just cut a triangle for a stand. Next, I'm going to make a scanner, and I hope this works. If it doesn't, I do have a backup. This one, I believe, is from Temu. I got it with a register that I ordered maybe 2 years ago. So I do have a backup if this doesn't work. I'm using a dowel rod that I've cut to 1/2 inch in length. This piece is paperboard left over from another project, and I cut it into a triangle. And I think that's about 3 or 4 layers of paperboard. When I cut my triangle, I tried to cut the bottom to about 1/2 inch, but you can see I am a little shy of that, so I think it might be 7/16 of an inch. And the top of it, I just cut straight across to make it flat. So I'm going to glue these 2 pieces together like this. I'm going to put the dowel rod towards the smaller end of the paperboard, and then I'm going to paint it. Here's my finished scanner. I think it came out pretty good. I did paint a red stripe on the front just to mimic the red light when you're scanning items. Next, I'm going to make a credit card scanner. I'm using 2 printouts for the scanner. I have the face of the scanner printed out and some receipts. I'm using paperboard to make the base of the scanner, and this is pretty thick. It's left over from a previous project, but I still might double this up to make it a little bit thicker. So I'm just going to use my printable and cut it to size and glue the printable on top, and then I'll paint the back side black. Here's the card reader so far. It's the printout glued to the paperboard. Now I'm going to take the printout of my receipts and a dowel rod that is cut to 1/2 inch in length, and I'm going to wrap the receipts around it. I might not need all of them. I might just cut off the first 2. and make it look like it's rolled onto the dowel rod. I decided to only use 2 of the receipts, and I have one wrapped around the dowel rod. Now I can attach the roll of receipts to the card reader, and I'm deciding if I want it like this or if I want to glue it on top. I'm thinking gluing it on top might look better. Here's the finished card reader with receipts, and I like it, but now I'm trying to decide if I want to prop it up more. Maybe add a piece of paperboard underneath to help it stand up. Guys, let me know what you think in the comments, and I can always go back and add something to the bottom to help it stand up if you guys think that would look better. Next, I'm going to start putting the walls of the post office together. This is going to be the entryway wall, and I made several of these facades in an earlier video. You can find it on the Village playlist. So I'm going to turn this over. Here's the back of the wall, and I've already cut out some plastic to fit in the window and in the door. I'm going to cover this wall with some blue and white paper. The bottom 6 inches will be covered in white and then the rest in blue. And I wanted the white to kind of clean this up because I did get paint on the foam board. So just to make it look a little bit neater. And I want to mimic a chair rail. So I might go in with either some strips of paper that have been cut to a 1/2 inch wide, or I can use some foam board that's also been cut to a 1/2 inch wide. This is what it's looking like so far. I do have my plastic glued in place, and I've already started trimming around the door. I used the foam board to trim out the door and just the paper to trim out the chair rail. And I did rip my paper right here, so I'm hoping that won't be too distracting. I might have to just cover it with some additional paper. For my door handles, I'm just going to go with some dowel rods like I did for the music store and the bank. The one on the outside I'm going to leave black, and for the inside I'm going to paint one of these gray. I finished the inside of this wall, and now I can move on to the other ones, and they're going to be pretty easy to put together. For the other main walls, I'm using the exact measurements that I used for the bank. So this is a 29 inch by 20 inch foam board piece, and I've made it into a trifold. I've scored along the back, and the measurements for each section are 8.5 inches, and then I scored 12 inches for the center, and I scored here, and the rest of it is 8.5 inches. And like the wall for the door, I'm going to put some blue paper on top and some white paper on the bottom. Here's the wall, and this is not good. I ran into a major issue. I used poster board for the blue instead of blue paper. I was out of my blue craft paper in this color, and I got this poster board from the Dollar Tree. And I wasn't thinking as I was gluing it down that I probably should have cut it the length of each section of the trifold. That way it would prevent all of these bubbles from happening. And I have one major one here because as I was trying to fold it and crease in the middle, this section kept coming up and it was a whole mess. But I don't have time today to run out and get another blue poster board. So I'm going to continue with this build. Just know if you try this, it's probably better to use craft paper, or if you're going to use the poster board, just go ahead and cut it the length of your wall. That way you won't run into this issue. But I'm going to continue, and I'm not going to permanently glue the walls together at the end because I will be remaking this at a later date. Next, I'm going to work on the mail room of the post office. This is where the mail sorting cabinet is going to be, and I'm just using another trifold. And I've already cut a door out, but the measurements of the entire trifold are 29 inches by 15 inches. The measurements for each section of the trifold are 11 inches, and in the middle is 7 inches, and the last section is 11 inches. The measurements for the door are 13 inches by 4 inches. The good thing about the inside of this room is I'm not going to put any paper on the wall, so I'm just going to leave it white. I am going to put some white foam board around the door to trim it, but on the other side of the door, I will be putting some paper. So when I close this up and turn it around, it will fit inside of the main area of the post office. So I want this side to have some color. So I'm going to use some red paper on the top and some white paper on the bottom, and I'll trim out the door. Here's what the inside looks like with the trim around the door and the outside. Now I can start on the floor, and I'm just using foam board for that, and the total measurement is 20 1/4 inches by 11 3/4 inches. I also added a fold in my floor, and if we go along one of the longer sides, it is 7 3/4 inches to the fold. And I'm going to cover my floors with this wood grain paper. Now I can glue my front wall and my large blue and white wall together, and I'm only going to use a tiny bit of hot glue because I will have to take this apart later to fix my larger wall. Next, I can attach the floor, and I'm just going to sit it in place for now. So I'm going to take the shorter side of the fold, and if I was gluing this in place, I would glue it to the front and to this shorter side of the trifold wall, so it could still fold up and everything else would close around it. Now for the back room, all I have to do is push the last part of the trifold out and position this here as if the dolls are going into another area. I'm not going to extend the flooring into this room because I don't think I need it. I can always just get another sheet of this paper and put it in this room. But because I'm going to be moving this room around to film, I'll probably be opening it up a little bit, or just different ways to get in and film. So I can always just use the flooring of the main part of the bank. Now I can add all of the furniture that I made last week, plus these safety deposit boxes that I made in a previous video. And everything can fit neatly in the post office when it's folded up. So my friends, that's where the post office is for now. I wish I had more time so I could fix that wall, but I actually need to go out of town. But by the time you see this video, I will be back home and fixing that wall, and we can get everything permanently put in place. I still have to make a few things for this post office, like the priority boxes and the post office boxes for the back. And I want to work on the printables a little bit more because some of them I'm not happy with. So I won't attach the printables in this video, but in the next one I will have some printables available for you guys. So my friends, that's all I have for you today. If you have any questions about anything in this video, please leave it in the comments below. I will try my best to answer your questions. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and turn on your notifications. I'll see you next time, my friends. Bye bye.